Badgers basketball is undefeated heading into the conference season. Nobody would have expected that. What about today's game did I like? And what about today's game did not love? Locked On Badgers, let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Badger fam? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, Chicago State reaction. The Badgers, I felt like they kind of went through the motions today a tiny bit, but they do hold off Chicago State, an 0-8 team, not a very good team at all. In fact, that's a really bad team. But they're undefeated in conference play. This is Locked On Badgers. I'm Rose Reiner, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's talk about this team. A couple big things that stuck out to me from today's game. Actually, though, listen, yesterday was rough. That football game was rough. This is a good chaser. Let's celebrate the fact that the Badgers basketball team is undefeated in non-conference play.
This is awesome. It's a good day for me. Come on in here, buddy. Get up on that line.
Yeah, so a couple things I liked about this game. Once again, you continue to see the offense philosophy, right? They're going to shoot threes and then get to the paint, get fouled. I think that continued to happen. Not a great shooting day. Klesman had a rough day. But again, this is going to be the Max Klesman experience. I don't want to see – I'm not going to say it if you want to be frustrated by that school, but there's going to be a game coming up where he's 5 of 7 from 3. This is how he's been for years, right? And you continue shooting if you're a shooter in this offense. So I don't mind. I know some people – I was getting a few messages from some people that were a little frustrated by some of the shot selection. That's what this offense is. I continue to say it. They're going to take threes. I thought there was a couple – where it was maybe a little too hero ball. Let's start with the negative. I felt like they went through the motions a little bit today. This is not a good team. They've had a bit of a layoff. It's kind of a middle-of-the-day game. Big Ten conference schedule's coming up, and it felt like that a little bit from their energy. It felt like Chicago State should not have been down like 7 at halftime. At one point, they pulled it to within like 5 off a layup on the other side. It felt like transition defense at times was a little lazy. Again, I'm not trying. It just felt like one of those days, right, where you showed up at work and you were content just giving the 90% effort. I thought some tip balls offensively. We got a little sloppy passing, a couple turnovers we normally wouldn't have, a couple defensive lapses where people get in the paint a little too easily. It's just little things. I also don't want to take too much out of that because you're going to have some games where you're not your best. And Chicago, this is not a team that they were going to get up for. It is what it is. But just be careful, right? Because that things you do are the habits you set. And transition defense is something I've talked about a couple times this year, where this team doesn't always find shooters in transition as well defensively as I think they should. And what I mean by that is when the other team is able to break out and we're in a bit of a cross-match situation. There's been multiple times this year. Arizona, it happened. Pitt, it happened. I thought against App, it happened, where the other team is able to find some easier looks in transition because we're not finding those shooters in cross matches easily as I think we should. So something to keep track on. Perimeter defense was an issue last year. It's been an issue at times this year already. I thought you saw more of that today. But overall, we're not going to spend a ton of time dissecting this game. We're just not. It's Badger win. Badgers are 9-0. Let's bang some of these comments out here. Yeah, Smoking said kind of just through the motions today. Need to kick it up for Michigan and Marquette. I agree. This felt like a team, if this Badgers team was really locked in, like really locked in the way they were against Arizona or Pitt, I think they would have beaten by 40. I think they could have beat them by 40. You could have got, I thought offensively, there were several times coming down the court. And again, I'm a proponent of shoot when open, but there were several times where he came down the court and just kind of took a step back three. That's not a great look early in the shot clock. Going to Crowell, they couldn't handle Stephen Crowell. Good Stephen Crowell game today. 7 boards, 5 assists. I think that was his final number. 7 boards, 5 assists. I got it right here. 4 of 7 from the field. Yeah, that's why you're going to have Stephen Crowell on this team. That's why it's important. And again, did he lead the team in assists today? He was tied with Max Klesman. Him and Max each had 5 assists. That's where he's really valuable. And you can really see it against teams that don't have a good physical post defender. That's where Stephen Crowell is really a tough matchup for opposing coaches and opposing front courts. When they have a big physical guy, it gets a lot easier. If you don't, you can dump it into Crowell and you can just see Crowell survey the court. That's where he's really tough. I thought he had a good game. Another really good game from John Tonje. Again, led the Badgers in scoring. Again, got to the free throw line. Again, showed that you cannot leave him. I thought it was interesting. If you watch Chicago State, they came out in kind of a matchup zone. kind of an aggressive matchup zone where they were really trying to shift the court, get the Badgers to play on one side. The Badgers shot them out of that matchup zone in like 4 possessions, right? Pass to the wing, shot, pass to the wing, shot, pass to the middle, kick to the wing. And they're like, okay, yeah, we can't play zone against this team. That's going to be this Badgers team to some degree. You're not going to be able to play zone against them. They're just going to shoot the ball too well. Now, again, this wasn't a great zone defense. A-Bug says was expecting a bigger blowout. Rick Mueller said, why isn't Freitag playing more? He's just not in the rotation. Like, ultimately, and I like Freitag. He was able to get in at the end of this game. His first shot was kind of that floater that got blocked. He's just not in the rotation yet. And it comes down to who would you take minutes from? I don't think you can take really minutes right now from Klesmit, McGee, Blackwell. So the minutes have to come from somewhere, and I don't think he probably gives you more than those other players. The upside's still there, but I didn't expect the jump that McGee took this year. And I think McGee's jump is eating the minutes that I thought Daniel Freitag would get. And I didn't see that jump from McGee coming, but he's played really well. Today, 15 minutes, did score. But even when he's out there, like McGee's in the center of things, right? That's one of the things I really like about Kamari McGee. He's just kind of intense. He's a competitor. He gets in the face of people. He gives you a little bit of that edge that you need on this team. Nolan Winter, some of that today, getting a little fired up. Got in a couple entanglements with Chicago State players. I thought the next couple plays after he kind of got, they got into basketball pushing matches are minor, but he got in a couple of those, and then you can see him get aggressive in the post and try to go to work. I was like, yes, angry Nolan Winter. That is a good thing for this team. So Kamari McGee gives you some of that, and it just Freitag's not quite ready. Bo Dragon says Klesmit doesn't fit this year like last year. I disagree, man. I think Klesmit was 1 of 7 today. This is not the greatest Klesmit performance, obviously. 1 of 7 from 3, correct? Like up the nets. That's right. Yeah, 1 of 7 from 3. But he also had 5 assists. Like, you're going to have missed shots with Max Klesmit, but he definitely fits this offense. This offense is geared to Max Klesmit. By the way, the way we're playing this year, Connor Arcesia would be a nice fit too. Smo says, let Greppy eat. Greppy's great, man. When talking to him in my interview with Greppy before the season, he's one of my favorite quotes from him was pasta fixes everything. Lucas Piranha says Freitag still looks uncomfortable. I agree. I think, listen, the thing with him is he is a true freshman, and he's a true freshman. Couple things to keep in mind here. He's a true freshman that was a dual athlete guy, dual sport guy, right? Playing football and basketball. So a lot of these basketball players, from the time they're like 10, they specialize. Football, basketball, hockey, tennis, everybody special. Not everybody. A lot of high school athletes specialize now. What I mean by that is year-round, they are focusing on that one sport. AAU, personal trainers, Nike camps, EYBL camps, point guard going to PGC to work on just their craft, playing in tournaments and playing in the season. It's year-round, so they get a lot more reps at that specific sport. That wasn't Freitag, right? Freitag was a football, basketball guy. And a football basketball guy that had some time getting hurt. So he has less of that development time, which is probably why maybe he looks a little more uncomfortable. And then on top of it, he didn't play at the greatest high school level. Playing at Breck in Minnesota, Breck High School, that's not the elite of the elite. So I think maybe there's more of a learning curve there than I had talked about, that maybe we should have talked about. The physical skills are still there. It doesn't diminish anything. It's just maybe the learning track is a little bit longer. Lucas says Greppy did look good, though. The thing with Greppy is he gives you legit size. If nothing else, that is a legitimately big dude, and size matters. It's one of the spots you might have to go overseas to get that. I talked to somebody who does some overseas recruiting. He kind of knows that area a little bit better, and he said maybe the Badgers will just go overseas to get more of their size going forward, because you can find those guys a little easier over there. I think offensively, Greppy's always going to have a long ways to go. But if he can give you some size, some physical play, some defensive rebounding, the ability to box out, challenge some shots, that's not a bad backup 5 going forward. I don't think he's ever going to develop the offensive skill set that's going to make him a Big Ten starting 5. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong because I really like the kid. But I think he can give you solid backup 5 minutes, and this team needs that. Justin Tyler says Klesmit needs to start getting his shots to fall. He's worrying me. I just want to get too worried about it. He's a volume shooter, and he's a streaky shooter. He's going to shoot himself into slumps and shoot himself out of slumps. I'm not that stressed about it. I only worry, and I get it. Like, I'm not telling you not to be, but I only get worried if he starts taking bad shots, and I don't think he's really done that yet too much. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, get more into your comments, plus what I thought of Xavier Amos getting some minutes today as well. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show. Talking to Badgers victory here. Today's episode brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. It's the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network and the NFL. Parlays, futures, teaser, spreads, and right now over at FanDuel.com, a $5 bet gets you $150 in bonus bets guaranteed if you win. That's over at FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com today. You'll get started with that $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Please do it responsibly, as always. Great time, though. NFL, NBA, college basketball. We're about to get into Big Ten basketball, y'all. I'm excited. This team is fun to watch. Really fun to watch. So all that action's over there at FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook of the NFL and the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at Gametime. I talk about this all the time. Listen, the holidays are coming up. If you're like me, man, I don't know what the heck I'm doing sometimes with holidays. Like, Google best presents. This is a great opportunity. Go to Gametime, buy tickets for somebody, get an experience for somebody, get something that they won't forget, get something that they'll always remember. Let's do more things in life. Do that at Gametime. Tickets to any event you want: basketball, football, baseball, hockey, tennis, equestrian events. I don't know. Do people go to those? I don't know. But if they do, there's probably tickets on Gametime. Theater, Broadway, it's all there. Go do more stuff over at Gametime. Download the tickets without the stress over at Gametime. Use code Locked On for $20 off. That's over at Gametime. It is a great ticket platform. Last-minute deals, flash sales, pictures of the seats before you sit down so you know exactly what you're going to be seeing, what your sight lines are. That's over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Use code Locked On for $20 off. Okay, let's jump back into this conversation here. Let's get your comments. How y'all feeling? Anything? Coming off the football game yesterday, heading into Big Ten basketball season. Badgers aren't going to be going bowling, which is still wild to me. Sorry, this is a positive reaction show. This is a good reaction show. Sorry. Let's get some more of your comments here. A-Bug says, I think Klesman just needs to relax, play his game. He seems almost uptight this year. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I don't think he's pressing, though. I just think this is who he is. I think he's a volume shooter who's streaky. And I could be wrong. I don't think it's more complicated than that. And here's the other thing I'll say. Look at how the defenses guard him. The defenses still guard him like you have to guard a really good three-point shooter. And that's really what matters, right? If they're still closing out hard, which allows them to get in the paint, which allows the second pass. If they stop doing that, right, if he continues to shoot at a poor clip and then they stop with the hard closeouts, that starts to come up your spacing. And then I think you need to start to have that conversation. But I don't think I'm there yet. Rick Mueller said, you said the same thing about Connor E. Guard gets an opinion about someone and he doesn't move off of it. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so I'm trying to remember my conversations about Connor last year. And I do think at times you got to give some people more leash. Connor was also a bad defensive player, though, and was shooting poorly. Freitag is a freshman who still needs some time. I think you see it. So I don't know if they're analogous to each other, if they're A for A. I hear your point, though. Guard can be kind of set in his ways. A lot of coaches are. You have to earn those minutes in practice, and I don't think he has to this point. So, I'm not too worried about that. Angelo Cortez, thoughts on Amos improving? Yes and no. I think you saw the flashes again with him, right? You saw a couple nice threes, like he can really drill that shot. But then you saw a couple plays. Let me pull the stats here again on Amos while I talk about a couple things that frustrated me with his game today. 13 minutes, 3 of 8. So in 13 minutes, he got up 8 shots. That right there feels a little much. I think he's trying to, again, not prove, that's the wrong word. He's trying to maximize his minutes, right? To earn more minutes, you want to maximize the minutes you have. That's a usage rate. His usage rate, he finished the game at 32%. That's the highest usage rate on the team. He needs to do a better job of picking and choosing, a little bit better. When you're coming off the bench, if you're the star of a team, get up shots. If you're coming off the bench to try to find your role, you don't need to lead the team in usage rate. Then when he gets in the paint, again, you saw it a couple times, he's got to finish stronger. This is not – Chicago State is not the Twin Towers. It's not the formidable front court that you're going to see in the Big Ten. And he's still – there's a couple plays. There's one in the first half where he got on the left baseline, left block, and kind of went out of bounds as he finished. Bro, you're a good athlete. You get good size length. You're bouncy, 2-foot jump stop, pump fake, get into them, finish strong. Again, in the second half, there was a play where it kind of got fed to him going to the rim, and he just didn't finish strong. I think he's got to just be a little more consistent, finish a little stronger. But the shooting's there. We see it. It's a beautiful stroke. Like, he can definitely stretch the defense. He can definitely hit those deep perimeter shots. But it's those little things, man. You got to finish at the rim. You got to be a little more selective. So I think it's coming. It's slowly coming, but it's not quite there yet. Jason Geldon, Wisconsin versus Kansas in the 5-7 bowl. Man, I'll take it. Justin made a good point on yesterday's show. You know, if you don't have a bowl game, maybe you can focus more on the roster turnover. But if you don't have a bowl game, you miss out on 15 practices, man. Those practices are so important. And Coach Fickle talked about it in his post-game presser. You could hear him. He's like, yes, we would take it. Yes, you need to freaking play games to get better. And we saw it in the bowl game last year. You saw the young guys start to get more reps. It's super conceivable to look at the bowl game this year if you were to somehow sneak into a 5-7. And I don't think Wisconsin's going to, unfortunately. But if you were going to, you could see it as a springboard for a guy like Heiberger to get reps, Lafayette to get reps. Maybe Raphael Dunn gets some reps. Maybe a guy like Tyler Jancy, who I really like an inside linebacker, gets some reps. Emerson Mandel could start. You could get – because the bowl game doesn't really matter when you to the lower tiers. Like, it matters, but it doesn't really matter. You're no longer fighting for anything. I would love to sneak into one. I don't think it's going to happen, though. Bo Dragon, European players are tougher. They play more physical. It's a good idea to get 4s and 5s from there. I agree. There's a different type of physicality when you get a dude from Europe. Like, they're just a little tougher. All right, I think we'll wrap it up there, guys. Again, a bunch of comments, but this is also not a game I think we need to completely dissect. Bo Dragon says they shoot good enough as a team to have a top 3 to 5 Big Ten season. I agree. Listen, they're not going to win. They're going to get beaten up by some Big Ten teams. You're going to drop a couple games because of the glass. You're going to drop a couple games because you don't shoot well. That's going to happen to this team. But I think they can finish 4-ish in the Big Ten, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm right there with Bo, and that's a really good year. This is a good Big Ten. So I'm excited about that. JK says, why does it seem like every missed shot or mistake by Janiki leads to a mate 3 on the other end? Regardless, he's going to be very good. Yeah, I agree. There was some of that, but he is going to be good. I love the pace he plays with. He plays with himself. He understands the game. He can play offense, defense. He's a little switchable. Tough player. I like him a lot. There's a future piece for this team that's going to be a good rotational player for the next couple of years. Angelo says we're going to lose games from our lacking defense. Agreed. Yeah, it's going to happen. This is not a perfect team. Make no mistake. I'm high on this team. I like this team. It's more enjoyable to watch than last year. They're going to shoot some teams out of the gym, and then they're also going to lose a couple games because they can't keep a team under 80, and we can't keep guys off the glass. Both of these things are true. This is a good team, not a perfect team. And I think as long as we have those expectations, we can have a hell of a fun season. I'm really looking forward to this Big Ten season for the Badgers basketball team. It's a good team. This is a good, possibly really good team. If the defense and the rebounding don't hiccup us in some key moments. All right, we're going to wrap it there. On Wisconsin, y'all are amazing. Go enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we will talk later.